Namaskar, I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Welcome to Newsnight. Now, in a major diplomatic decision, India has asked Pakistan to reduce its diplomatic strength by 50%. In Delhi, we will talk about the implications of this big development and decision. Meanwhile, military-level talks between India and China and Ladakh has taken a positive turn. More on that in the show up ahead. Defense Minister's crucial visit is something we'll focus on. It's to Russia and India's participation in the RIC summit. All that and more. First, the headlines. India seeks 50% staff reduction in Pakistan High Commission within 7 days. MEA summons charge the affairs of Pakistan and conveys India's objections to the repeated gross violations of Vienna Convention and bilateral agreements by Pakistan. India to also reciprocally reduce its presence in Islamabad proportionally. Army Chief General M.M. Naravane on a two-day visit to Ladakh to review the overall military preparedness and ground situation at LAC, interacts with soldiers at military hospital in Leh. Army Commanders Conference reviews operational situation on northern and western fronts. Mutual consensus to disengage emerges between India and China after Corps commander level talks. Modalities for disengagement from all friction areas in eastern Ladakh to be taken forward by both sides. External Affairs Minister addresses virtual RIC meeting, says challenge today is not of concepts, of norms, but equally of their practice. Russian Foreign Minister calls India a strong nominee to become permanent member of the UN Security Council and assures support to India's candidacy. Also hopes India-China LAC situation gets resolved peacefully. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh holds bilateral talks with Russia's Deputy PM Yuri Borisov in Moscow, reviews defense cooperation and discusses ways to expand it, says India and Russia enjoy special and privileged strategic partnership and defense relationship is one of the important pillars of it. Prompt policy measures by government and RBI in a calibrated manner begins reinvigorating the economy. Economic indicators in agriculture, manufacturing and services sectors along with monetary indicators show increase in economic activity. India's recovery rate from COVID-19 improves to over 56% with more than 2.48 lakh recoveries. Active cases rise to 1.78 lakhs with 14,000 fatalities. Global cases rise over 91 lakhs with 45 lakh recoveries and 4.7 lakh fatalities. Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra at Puri halts at Gundicha Temple for the day. Rath Yatra also underway in Ahmedabad after Gujarat High Court's nod. President, Vice President, Prime Minister extend greetings on the occasion. And in sports, men's world #1 tennis player Novak Djokovic tests positive for COVID-19 following an exhibition event he organized in Croatia. Pakistan Cricket Board confirms 7 more players tested positive, taking the total number of infected players to 10. And our big news of the day, India will reduce the staff strength in the Pakistan High Commission in New Delhi by 50% and recall a similar number of officials from its commission in Islamabad. This is what the External Affairs Ministry said amid the ongoing diplomatic row between the two nations. The reduction is to be implemented in the span of 7 days. Pakistan's Charge d'Affaires had been summoned and was told that India had repeatedly expressed concerns about Pakistani officials in acts of espionage and maintaining dealings with terrorist organizations. The behavior of Pakistan is not in conformity with the Vienna Convention, India said, and bilateral agreements also, the treatment of diplomatic and consular officials. Here's more.
India has asked Pakistan on Tuesday to reduce its staff in the High Commission in New Delhi by half within the next 7 days and announced a reciprocal reduction in Indian strength in Islamabad. India has said that the officials have been found to be involved in acts of espionage and maintaining dealings with terrorist organizations. A statement released by the Ministry of External Affairs said that the Charge d'Affaires of Pakistan was summoned to the Ministry of External Affairs. He was informed that India has repeatedly expressed concern about the activities of officials of his High Commission. It said that they've been engaged in acts of espionage and maintained dealings with terrorist organizations. The activities of the two officials caught red-handed and expelled on the 31st of May 2020 was one example in this regard. The statement further put light on the harassment of Indian High Commission officials in Pakistan. It said Pakistan has in parallel engaged in a sustained campaign to intimidate the officials of the Indian High Commission in Islamabad from carrying on their legitimate diplomatic functions. The recent abduction at gunpoint of two Indian officials is an example. These officials, who have returned to India on the 22nd of June 2020, have provided graphic details of the barbaric treatment that they experienced at the hands of Pakistani agencies. The behavior of Pakistan and its officials is not in conformity with the Vienna Convention and bilateral arrangements on the treatment of diplomatic and consular officials. Therefore, the Government of India has taken the decision to reduce the staff strength in the Pakistan High Commission in New Delhi by 50%. On the 31st of May, two officials of Pakistan High Commission were caught red-handed and expelled in an espionage case. Meanwhile, J&K police has said that Pakistan is trying to push terrorists into Jammu and Kashmir under the cover of ceasefire violations by its troops along the line of control.
पाकिस्तान की तरफ से और भी कोशिशें हो रही हैं कि जैश ए मोहम्मद के और कार्डर्स और लश्कर तौबा के और कार्डर जो हैं कश्मीर के अंदर भेजे जाएं। उसके लिए चाहे उनको आईबी सेक्टर का इस्तेमाल करना पड़े जम्मू में, या फिर रजौरी पुंछ के सेक्टर में। कल परसों से भी नौशहरा सेक्टर फिर से बहुत एक्टिव चल रहा है। नौशहरा सेक्टर में अभी एक हफ्ते से थोड़ा टाइम पहले ही एक आतंकियों का 3 का ग्रुप मारा था जो इन्फिल्ट्रेट करके आ रहा था। कुपवारा का केरन और बारामूला सेक्टर में जबरदस्त कोशिश चल रही है कि उस जगह पर सीजफायर वायलेशंस की आड़ में और आतंकियों को इस तरफ भेजा जाए।
A CRPF jawan was killed during an encounter between terrorists and security forces in Pulwama district on Tuesday morning. 2 unidentified terrorists were also killed in that encounter. There has also been a spurt in Pakistani shelling along the LOC in Jammu and Kashmir this year, with over 2,027 cases of violation of the ceasefire agreement being reported till the 10th of June. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
As we move forward with this big story, let's quickly reflect on the timeline, the recent events that led to this big decision by India as far as Pakistan High Commission is concerned. May 31st, 2 Pakistan High Commission officials arrested on espionage charges. In the span of 24 hours, India asked them to return and they're sent back to Pakistan. May 31st, Emir accuses Pakistan of carrying out a sustained campaign to intimidate Indian officials as well. It's difficult to work as an Indian diplomat and official in Pakistan. Now, June 15, 2 diplomatic officials of the Indian High Commission go missing. Later, we figure that Pakistan forces had arrested them. But for many days, they go missing. India lodges a strong protest on June 16th of abduction and torture of the 2 Indian officials who had for many days gone missing, and later Pakistan acknowledged that they were arrested, and India raised a strong protest the manner in which they were tortured and abducted by Pakistan officials. Moving forward, June 22nd, the 2 Indian staff members, they return via Wagah Atari border between India and Pakistan. So this is how the sequence of events moves. June 24th, India reduces the staff strength of Pakistan Commission in Delhi by 50%, scaled down its own presence in Islamabad as well. So today's big development that takes place between India and Pakistan. We'll also talk about the India-China standoff, but that's a little later. I'll request my team, we can play that a little later. India-Pakistan is the first story that we're going to focus on. We're heading for a short break. When we return, we'll talk about the first big news about India and Pakistan relations. A short break. We'll focus on that first.
इनमें से एक है आपका डिटर्जेंट और एक फेना, तो कौन सा बेहतर है? ये है ज्यादा सफेद फेना।
100 में से 70 लोगों ने फेना सुपर वॉश को अपने डिटर्जेंट से बेहतर पाया है।
अब आप आप ही लीजिए फेना सफेदी चैलेंज और खुद कहना फेना ही लेना।
फेना कपड़ों से हटाए कीटाणु, इंडिया में बना गर्व के साथ।
पक्की होगी बुनियादें तो हंसे हिंदुस्तान होगा। पहले करो शुरुआत करो, करो तो पक्की बात करो। पहले करो शुरुआत करो, करो तो पक्की।
वंडर सीमेंट, एक परफेक्ट शुरुआत।
That brings us to the issue in focus, India's strong message to Pakistan in reducing the diplomatic strength of the officials in the Pakistan High Commission in India. And so reciprocally, India will also have its own people back in the same proportion. Now, my colleague Amrit Pal Singh is joining us on this big development. Amrit, given the low that the relations between the two countries have been and recent charges of espionage on Pakistan diplomatic officials, how unusual is this step taken by India?
Well, it's not very unusual in India and Pakistan to, downgrade its diplomatic relations. In the past, we've seen this happen. But generally, with countries around the world, this is an unusual step. It means it doesn't augur very well for diplomatic ties between the two countries, the host country and the other country which has a mission in your country. But it has precedent in India and Pakistan of reducing diplomatic officials. It happened in 2001. Last year when the Article 370 was abrogated, India was asked by Pakistan to withdraw its High Commissioner there. Since then, we don't have a High Commissioner. We have an acting envoy who's the Charge d'Affaires. Pakistan refused to send its newly appointed High Commissioner to India, and Syed Haider Shah is now the Charge d'Affaires is acting as the acting High Commissioner. It's happened in the past. In 2001, staff was cut by 50%. Earlier, we used to have consulates in Karachi and Lahore. Those consulates were shut down. So it has, precedent. It's not unprecedented, but it clearly means that when downgrading of diplomatic relations takes place between two countries, things are not well between them. Shubhendu?
Right there, Amrit, thanks very much for getting us that initial update on India acting tough on Pakistan. Moving ahead in the discussion, two special guests are joining us now online. Let me introduce you to the guests joining us in the program today. Mr. Vishnu Prakash, former senior diplomat. Also joining us is Kamar Aga, strategic affairs expert. A warm welcome to both of you, gentlemen. Mr. Vishnu Prakash, if I can begin with you. Mr. Kamar Aga, welcome to the program. Mr. Prakash, if I can begin with you, how do you see the implications of India's decision to reduce the High Commission strength of Pakistan in Delhi?
Shubhendu, I don't think we were left with any choice. We are dealing with a country which is frankly a rogue state. They do not follow any norms. They engage in the kind of barbarism which is alien to the modern diplomatic culture. It so happens that I can give you a first-hand account. I was posted in Islamabad in 2001 when the Indian Parliament was attacked, if you recall, on the 13th of December 2001. And we had taken a decision even then to reduce our diplomatic presence by 50%. And my High Commissioner and I, we were pulled out. Right. It is very difficult for an Indian diplomat to function in Pakistan. You are constantly chased by ISI. Your activities are even normal diplomatic activities are not allowed to take place. There are difficulties in meeting people. So it is indeed very, very difficult. And the kind of behavior of theirs in abducting two Indian officials at gunpoint and subjecting them to inhuman treatment is completely unacceptable.
Right. Mr. Kamar Aga, if I can come to you, sir. Now, India has made it clear that Pakistan's behavior is clearly not in conformity to Vienna Convention. Also, the bilateral deals and understanding that India and Pakistan have had, Pakistan has also violated many of those conditions. help us understand, in terms of Vienna Convention, the ways in which Pakistan has continuously violated the positions and the terms.
You see, Pakistan is one country, which does not follow the Vienna Convention or international agreements or treaty obligations. It has been violating. We have number of treaties with Pakistan. All of them are violating. Ceasefire violations are taking place despite, we are having a ceasefire agreement with them. So this is the behavior. The embassy, particularly the Pakistan embassy in New Delhi, is directly involved in promoting separatist activities in Jammu and Kashmir. Number of times, even they made funds, funded the separatist groups. The reports are available, published in the newspaper. Also, people were caught red-handed. They have told the investigative agencies how much money they have received. So these are the activities in which the embassy is involved. Then secondly, the Pakistani military establishment, promoting militancy over there. So there is a coordinated effort by the embassy in Delhi and the military establishment in Pakistan, working in tandem, promoting separatism, militancy in Jammu and Kashmir and other parts of the country.
So do we see that Pakistan using its own High Commission almost as a base to further its espionage initiatives?
They have the number of times, there are diplomats were arrested, red-handed, supplying information. I'm not talking about the recent incident, in which 2 diplomats were involved. Earlier also, they were involved. Number of, their several modules were busted by Spanish modules were busted in Rajasthan, Punjab, and many other places, of India. So the embassy actually, the duty of the embassy or the job of a diplomat is to promote relation between the two countries, whereas the Pakistan embassy is indulging in anti-India activities, promoting separatism within the country, which is not acceptable to the government or to the people of this country as well, And what's the point, when we don't have any cultural contact, we don't have any sporting contacts with Pakistan. Pakistan has suspended all these activities, had to be suspended because of the ongoing militancy. There is no point keeping such a large diplomatic corps in Islamabad or Pakistan is having in India. This is the best thing, to reduce them to half, I think I hope Pakistan understand all these things, the meaning of all these things, because Pakistan, we have a support in international community. Pakistan is generally regarded by the international community as a rogue state, as Ambassador Vishnu has just mentioned, and it's the most trusted ally. America has said, the Pakistan is the epicenter of terrorism in the whole region. So not only we, the other countries are also facing similar problem. Afghanistan has been virtually destroyed by the
We'll talk about those aspects further, sir. Mr. Vishnu Prakash, if I can come to you, sir. Now, we know that diplomatic missions are representative of their respective countries. Now, cutting down on the staff strength, how strong, how symbolic is that protest by India on the kind of actions, espionage, as well as mistreatment of Indian officials in Pakistan? How strong is a statement by India by this step?
For countries which believe in civilizational norms, which abide by diplomatic norms, it is as big a snub as it possibly can be, short of snapping diplomatic ties. But frankly, as far as Pakistan is concerned, it's water off the duck's back. They are out to damage the relations. They try their best to ensure that normal diplomatic activity cannot be carried out. It is very evident that they are not open to any constructive suggestion, and it's very well known that they display compulsive hostility. And as Kamal Aga Saab said, even in these times, when there is a coronavirus crisis and Pakistan is struggling with that, India is struggling with it, they are keeping the border hot. They are trying to push terrorists into the country. They are they engage in firing. It is unfortunate that our neighbor is displaying this kind of compulsive hostility towards us, perhaps at the behest of some other country, perhaps to further what they think is the strategic objectives. I have often wondered whether in this atmosphere there is makes any sense to even maintain a diplomatic presence, because diplomats are not allowed to function, and their High Commission has become a web or a nest of ISI operatives. The added bit is that the Pakistani armed forces officers masquerade as diplomats. So we have a situation where a neighbor is just not willing to follow any diplomatic norms or norms of decency or humane behavior.
Right. Mr. Aga, if I can talk about the staff that will remain in India, in Delhi, 50% of the staff has been cut. Since the issue is of surveillance, the issue is of trust, do you think a greater surveillance would be required on the officials of Pakistan in the embassy, those of them who stay, because it could be any of them?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that is a job of our intelligence agencies. They must, take care of all these things, because they won't change. They'll continue to act. They'll continue to indulge in these nefarious activities in the country. It is very unfortunate. I feel sad. Large number of Pakistanis wanted to come to India for treatment. Large number of their artists and other, sports person wanted to have contact with India, but unfortunately, the Pakistani military establishment doesn't want the friendly ties with India. And as long as military continues to play a greater role in political affairs of Pakistan, I don't think relation would improve. Because
and how big a challenge does that become, Mr. Aga? How big a challenge does that become for India? Because we already negotiating border standoff with China, although some positive news came today, and now the ceasefire violations on the borders with Pakistan has been on for many days now. How challenging does it become for India then, dealing on two fronts?
It's a very big challenge, and we have to deal with both of them. This is very unfortunate, But China, at least we have some mechanism that sometimes works, and we are trying to tell Chinese to behave decently, and Chinese are under terrible pressure, But how to deal with Pakistan, we don't know. Except one thing, the tough dealing. We have to maintain forces in Jammu and Kashmir, because if we withdraw our forces from Jammu and Kashmir, their attempt would be to destabilize the state. So therefore, we have to maintain forces. We have to. The only way to build more pressure, we have to take Pakistan. Those measures which should weaken Pakistani military establishment. The focus should be on that. And because as long as this establishment is there, we should not expect anything. Because you should understand one thing: Pakistan is not a natural state. It was carved out from India, and it takes thousands of years to emerge a nation. It's not a nation, modern nation is state. It's an arrangement where the military has occupied a country, and ruling the people. So that is a problem with it, because if they behave normally, if they improve their ties with India, then the Baloch, then the Pathans, then the Sindhis and others, they want to have closer ties with India. They never wanted Pakistan to be there at first places and see what is happening inside the country. Whenever the internal crisis emerges, they try to focus. And now it has become a permanent affair because they have the supporters.
So challenge ahead for India on both the fronts there. Mr. Qamar Agha, let me thank you for joining us in this discussion. Mr. Prakash, request you to stay with us. We'll connect with you again as we discuss more about India-China ties and developments on that front. Moving on, military-level talks between India and China have taken a positive turn. Modalities for disengagement from all friction areas in eastern Ladakh were discussed. Army Chief General Naravane is meanwhile visiting Ladakh, and he's going to review the ground situation, discuss the ongoing standoff with the ground commanders, visit the forward locations and interact with troops on the ground as well. Also, Defence Minister's visit to Russia attains great significance in the context of the current India-China standoff. Here's more.
There are indications of the simmering tensions between India and China cooling down. The Corps Commander talks on Monday continued for over 11 hours. According to sources, the second Corps Commander level talks between India and China since the Galwan standoff were held at Moldo in a cordial, positive and constructive atmosphere. There was a mutual consensus to disengage. Modalities for disengagement from all friction areas in eastern Ladakh were discussed and will be taken forward by both the sides. Meanwhile, Army Chief General M.M. Naravane is visiting Ladakh. He met the injured soldiers at the hospital. During his 2-day visit, the Army Chief is going to review the ground situation, discuss the ongoing standoff with ground commanders, visit forward locations and interact with troops on the ground. Earlier, General Naravane held meeting with top army commanders over national security in Delhi. The meeting reviewed the operational situation at the borders with Pakistan and China was reviewed at the meeting. Strategy to upgrade security apparatus was also deliberated upon. In Moscow, Rajnath Singh once again expressed confidence that the two nations will expedite defense deals.
यह हमारी खास दोस्ती का एक यह प्रमाण है। पैंडेमिक की सभी कठिनाइयों के बावजूद हमारे बाइलेटरल रिलेशंस डिफरेंट लेवल पर बने हुए हैं। हम हमारे प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी के इन्विटेशन पर हिज एक्सेलेंसी प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ रशियन फेडरेशन व्लादिमीर पुतिन के इस वक्त भारत आगमन को लेकर भी हम काफी उत्सुक हैं। भारत और रशिया का एक स्पेशल एंड प्रिविलेज स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप वाला रिलेशनशिप है। हमारा डिफेंस रिलेशनशिप इसका एक महत्वपूर्ण पिलर है। मुझे भरोसा दिलाया गया है ऑनगोइंग कॉन्टैक्ट्स को मेंटेन किया जाएगा और न केवल मेंटेन किया जाएगा बल्कि उनको और तेजी से कम समय में पूरा भी किया जाएगा।
Meanwhile, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is in Moscow, Russia. On Tuesday, Defence Minister visited the Indian Embassy and paid tributes at the statue of Mahatma Gandhi. Ahead of his Russia visit, Rajnath Singh had said that the visit will be crucial in view of talks on defence and strategic partnership with Russia. Raksha Mantri will attend the Victory Parade on Wednesday to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the victory in the Second World War. The parade is held to honour the heroism and sacrifices made by the Russian and other friendly people. A Tri-Services 75-member Indian military contingent is also participating in the Victory Day Parade along with Russian contingent and other invited contingents. The Indian participation in the Victory Day Parade will be a mark of tribute to the great sacrifices made by Russia and other nations in the Second World War, in which Indian soldiers also took part and made the supreme sacrifice. Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And in an address, the virtual conference of the Russia-India-China trilateral meet, RIC meet, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar underlined the need for recognizing legitimate interest of partners in multilateral setup and following the ethos of international relations. External Affairs Minister also spoke about the need for reforming United Nations so that it can represent the current reality of the globe. Here's more from RIC Summit.
In an address at a virtual conference of the Russia-India-China trilateral, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has underlined the need for recognizing legitimate interest of partners in a multilateral setup and following ethos of international relations. He added that this special meeting reiterates India's belief in the time-tested principles of international relations, but the challenge today is not just one of the concepts and norms, but equally of their practice.
This special meeting reiterates our belief in the time-tested principles of international relations. But the challenge today is not just one of concepts and norms, but equally of their practice. The leading voices of the world must be exemplars in every way, respecting international law, recognizing the legitimate interests of partners, supporting multilateralism and promoting common good are the only way to build a durable world order.
In his initial remarks, Jaishankar also said that India did not get its due recognition in the global order post-World War II and that the historical injustice remained uncorrected for the last 75 years.
The United Nations began with 50 members. Today it has 193. Surely its decision making cannot continue to be in denial of this fact. We, the RIC countries, have been active participants in shaping the global agenda. It is India's hope that we will also now converge on the value of reformed multilateralism.
He said when the victors met to fashion the ensuing global order, the political circumstances of that era did not give India due recognition. With Bureau Inputs, DD News.
And meanwhile, Russia has ruled out any mediation between India and China by it following the violent clashes in Galwan Valley, saying that the two nations do not need any kind of assistance to resolve their disputes. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's remarks came after a virtual conference of the foreign ministers of Russia, India and China in the RIC summit. India and China have rejected any role for any parties in finding a peaceful resolution to their boundary issue. Russia has maintained close ties with both China and India. That brings us to the second big issue in focus this evening. India-China talks positive, way forward from here. And joining me now online, two special guests. Former senior diplomat Vishnu Prakash continues to stay with us. Thank you, sir, for staying with us. Also joining us is Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former DG Infantry. Welcome, sir, to the program. General Kulkarni, if I can begin with you, pushing back of forces at the LAC between India and China is a positive sign. Now, what will it take to sustain it?
You know, very important is there has been a tremendous amount of trust deficit, and especially after what has happened in Galwan. Because there is no doubt, there's a feeling that China has backstabbed, that the entire action which took place on the night 15th, 16th at Galwan were premeditated. It also appears that the troops were brought in over there. They were not the same troops. It also gives a feeling that there was someone controlling the entire operation. So this kind of trust deficit, and primarily when there are treaties for confidence building measures between the two countries, and at this as a backdrop, what has transpired today, wherein both the countries have finally accepted that they would go to status quo ante, that is, the troop deployment would be as on the 1st of May 2020, if the Chinese side implement all of it, including removal of all structures wherever they are. I think it sounds very well, because otherwise China has realized that it's not, it's on a back foot, and that it seems to be condemned the world over for the coronavirus, where social distancing, and if China behaves the way it has been conducting and wanting to teach India a lesson, by which what we understand that even the US intelligence reports which have been put on the open media source gives a feeling that yes, the Western Theatre Commander was involved in this, and therefore the distancing between India and China, rather than increasing, if they intend shortening it and bringing it closer, I think it's a very good move, provided China implement what has been decided, because they violated what was decided on the 6th of June. So that is very important.
Right. Mr. Prakash, while the terms of engagement in military terms are being revised as far as the LAC is concerned between India and China, in diplomatic terms, India continues to engage with China in different multilateral forums, including RIC that took place today. But what kind of a reset, what kind of a rethink do you think is required as far as India's diplomatic China policy is concerned from what has happened since 15th of June?
Well, China has thrown out of the window all confidence building measures, all understandings which were painfully crafted over the last 35 years in one stroke. So there is certainly a trust deficit, and it cannot be business as usual with China. We are also very clear that the only way forward is dialogue while strengthening our defenses, while conveying to China by various measures that will be a cost to its misadventure. The fact remains that this is a reality of geography that we have. We are destined to live together in the same geography. We have to deal with each other. And we have tried as much as is possible, especially Prime Minister Modi in the last 6 years, visited 5 times. He had 18 meetings, including the initiative to have informal summits. Now, what more can be done? But China has decided to behave in a certain way. Even today, if you see what the official spokesperson of China has said, maybe it's a nuance, maybe seems to be a slight variance between the statement, not a statement, but what has been given out on our side and what has been said by the Chinese spokesperson on record. He says both sides have agreed to take necessary measures to promote a cooling of the situation. So you do not know what is going on in their minds. You have to take everything with a pinch of salt, and you have to be ready for our eventualities, which our armed forces are.
Right.
But we, in the diplomatic parlance, we will take calibrated measures, duly deliberated measures, on the trade front, on the economic front, on the political front, diplomatic front, because it cannot be business as usual with China, period.
And Mr. Prakash, business as not as usual, you mentioned, and that really weighs heavy on the issue of the great trade deficit also that exists between India and China. Now that the relations are at a sour point, is it also important for India to take up this outstanding issue, which is crucial as well for its national progress, the trade deficit aspect with China?
We do not have to take it up because it has fallen on deaf ears. When we speak about $60 billion of trade deficit, their response is very quote-unquote creative. They say, let us increase the trade target to $500 billion from $100 billion. I mean, I have been a part of trade negotiations. I've never seen such an approach. They have imposed barriers and they have, China, long and short is that China is not a market economy, they're a command economy. And Prime Minister's call to the nation to buy Indian has now taken forward to a step of boycotting Chinese goods. Here is the situation. By buying Chinese, I'm not at all saying that we can do it overnight, but we have to make a beginning, because here is the situation. We are a country of 1.35 billion people. We have a large market. We allow Chinese goods to come in. They make money here, and which adds to their military muscle, which they use against us and the rest of the world. Now, while our SME sector suffers, our employment suffers, no, this is not possible. So when I said that we will have to take calibrated measures, which will include restrictions on Chinese imports, restrictions on Chinese FDI, this is what I hope and expect, and certainly a progressive ban on Chinese products and a number of other measures, because that is the only way to convey to China that there is going to be a cost to its misadventure. And for all you know, the way China is flexing muscles all around, behaving aggressively with Japan in the South China Sea, with others, and the way they behaved during the coronavirus period, which is still ongoing.
Right.
What we do today may become the order of the day tomorrow, and maybe other countries also follow suit.
Right. General Kulkarni, if I can come to you, sir. While there is some positive development as far as LAC talks are concerned, both the sides have agreed to disengage. In this context, how significant do you see Defense Minister's visit to Russia? He's there, especially in the defense ties that India enjoys with Russia. How significant would it be for India to really back up its arsenal and be prepared in a military context?
See, India has always had excellent relations with Russia, without fail. We have a sizable equipment which is imported from Russia. We trust the Russian equipment because it's sturdy and very hardy and suits, and our boys are adapted to use of Russian equipment. Having said that, even now the S-400 and the other equipment which is to come in, I think Russia would, in any case that the Russians have given for supply of the air defense equipment is concerned. But having said that, I think the very presence of Raksha Mantri in Russia today on the 75th anniversary and the Russian statement to say that they need not mediate between the two countries because it's bilateral and both the countries will resolve the issue. But whatever be it, I have no doubt in my mind that the Chinese have lost goodwill, not just with the armed forces of India, but also generally, you just see the kind of anger that you find in the civil streets. Whatever be, after all, the entire Chinese economy is export-based economy, and they are looking at us as a market. If this is the way Chinese have to behave and backstab and try and coerce us into towing their line, I don't think a country like India can ever toe a line which Chinese wish to. That's impossible. If China has understood that part, that India will not toe its line, whatever be it, I think India on its own is capable today to defend itself. Let me tell you.
The kind of trust deficit that you're talking about, and also that Mr. Prakash spoke about, what do you see is the way forward for India? These new terms of engagement as far as the LAC is concerned, do you think that will act as a sufficient deterrent for both sides to have peace at the LAC? Will that be a way forward?
See, what happens is in this new rules of engagement, whatever be it, the whole, and Judge Mr. Prakash rightly said, it's taken years for us to draft, 93 onwards till date, the kind of treaties, and each of us have been ensuring and adhering. You have noticed till the Galwan incident, everybody's been pushing. And even in the Galwan incident, there has not been a shot fired. But definitely, it does not mean you don't fire a shot and this is the way you conduct yourself, which is barbaric, absolutely barbaric. It's Stone Age behavior. And coming from a country which prides itself on a whole civilization, I think it's ridiculous. And the whole world has seen what China is all about. Ridiculing China itself becomes ridiculed the world over. If in this context, when the troops are there, I think it will be difficult for us now hereinafter. The face-offs we had, the banner drills we had, the drills were the place, even a cup of tea where places were okay, and if they shared and they came up and spoke, I think all of it is all over. We have to be careful. We have to, what they say, trust but verify. Keep your powder dry.
Right. Trust but be careful. Important way forward, important message forward in engaging with China. There, let me thank you both gentlemen for joining us in this program and sharing those thoughts to help us the situation at the LAC and the challenge ahead for India. Let's move ahead with our next big story. Amid the coronavirus pandemic, India began its first phase of unlock on June 1st. No sooner did the government announce the unlock that the good news started to pour in. That were the increase in economic activity, improvement in economic indicators. Meanwhile, the government announced that measures to make the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan a success. Minister of Finance Nirmala Sitharaman asserted that the government and the RBI are taking all measures to put the economy back on track. My colleague Ajay Mishra gets us more.
On June 1st, India entered the first phase of unlock and some economic activities were resumed. In this fight against COVID-19 pandemic, India is marching ahead, and it is only because of the timely tracing, treatment and reporting that the number of people recovering from the virus is continuously rising, and the active cases are 41% of the total cases. While on one hand, the efforts are in full swing to control the spread of the virus, simultaneously many organizations have predicted the growth rate to increase from 8.5 to 9.5%. As the latest data proves, the government and the RBI are taking all efforts to get India back on track. Centre has made it clear that it will continue to focus on structural improvements. procurement of wheat has touched an all-time record figure of 382 lakh metric tons on June 16. 42 lakh farmers have benefited and a total 73,500 crore rupees has been paid to them towards the minimum support price for wheat. As on 19th of June, farmers have sown 13.13 million hectares of kharif crops, which is 39% higher than the corresponding figure of last year. Fertilizer sales have surged by almost 98% year-on-year in May this year. PMI manufacturing and services showed lower contraction in May at 30.8 and 12.6 respectively. Electricity consumption saw lower contraction in growth rates from -24% in April to -15.2% in May to -12.5% till 21st of June. Total assessable value of e-way bills picked up by a massive 130% in May 2020. Consumption of petroleum products has also increased by almost 47%. Railway freight traffic improved by 26% in the month of May. Average daily electronic toll collections increased over 4 times from April to May. Total digital retail financial transactions via NPCI platforms increased sharply from rupees 6.71 lakh crore in April to 9.65 lakh crore in May this year. The steps taken by the RBI increased the liquidity in the month of May by 94%. The liquidity in the month of April was 22% lower. Foreign exchange reserves in the country have crossed the threshold of $507 billion. Centre has assured that it will prioritize social welfare policies along with the steps taken to make India more self-reliant. With inputs from Ajay Mishra in New Delhi, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Now, in its fight against COVID-19 pandemic, the union government is supplying 50,000 made-in-India ventilators to government-run COVID hospitals in all states and union territories. The government has already allocated rupees 2,000 crore for supply of these ventilators under PM CARES Fund. So far, 2,923 ventilators have been manufactured, out of which 1,340 ventilators have already been delivered to the states and union territories. By the end of June this month, additional 14,000 ventilators will be delivered to all the states and union territories. Prominent recipients include Maharashtra and Delhi for 275 ventilators each. Gujarat comes next, 175 ventilators. Bihar gets 100, Karnataka for 90, and Rajasthan gets 75 ventilators. Further, a sum of 1,000 crore rupees has been allocated for the welfare of migrant laborers as well. And we're heading for a short break. There's more coming up. Stay with us.
काश मैं महंगी टिकिया ले पाती। महंगी नहीं, फेना सुपर वॉश टिकिया आजमाइए। बेहतरीन झाग, रोज और चंदन, सुपर चमक।
महंगी टिकिया जैसी धुलाई फेना सुपर वॉश टिकिया में समाई।
फेना ही लेना।
फेना कपड़ों से हटाए कीटाणु, इंडिया में बना गर्व के साथ।
पक्की होगी बुनियादें तो हंसे हिंदुस्तान होगा। पहल करो शुरुआत करो, करो तो पक्की बात करो। पहल करो शुरुआत करो, करो तो पक्की।
वंडर सीमेंट, एक परफेक्ट शुरुआत।
Hey girls! Hi! Congratulations! आज तो पार्टी चाहिए। पहले चैंपियन के साथ सेल्फी लेंगे।
आइडिया, यही करते हैं पार्टी।
पिज्जा पार्टी। ये चल अपना कार्ड और पिन दे।
मेरे कार्ड की डिटेल्स मैं खुद ही डालूंगी। आरबीआई कहता है अपना पिन, ओटीपी, सीवीवी या इंटरनेट बैंकिंग पासवर्ड किसी के साथ शेयर ना करें। ऑनलाइन बैंकिंग सिर्फ अपने कंप्यूटर, मोबाइल और सिक्योर नेटवर्क से करें।
बाय गर्ल्स, कहाँ जा रही है? सुना नहीं? नो शेयरिंग।
आरबीआई कहता है जानकार बनिए, सतर्क रहिए।
Welcome back. You're watching Newsnight. Lalu Yadav's Rashtriya Janata Dal has suffered a dual setback just months ahead of Bihar Assembly elections. On a single day, veteran leader and one of RJD's founding members, Raghuvansh Prasad Singh, stepped down as its national vice president, while 5 of its 8 MLCs quit the party, forcing a split in its legislature group in Bihar Legislative Council. And they joined the ruling JDU, which is in power in the state in alliance with the BJP and other state-level parties.
Raghuvansh Babu आरजेडी के बहुत ही सम्मानित और बुजुर्ग नेता रहे और मजबूती से आरजेडी के साथ रहे, लेकिन आरजेडी एक ऐसी पार्टी है जो किसी का सम्मान करना नहीं जानती। रघुवंश बाबू जैसे व्यक्तित्व को, उनके जैसे व्यक्ति को भी आरजेडी के नेतृत्व ने अपमानित करने का काम किया और उनको अपमान, कोई भी स्वाभिमानी आदमी इस तरह के अपमान को बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकता।
And the world-famous Lord Jagannath Rath Yatra began on Tuesday morning in Puri amid restrictions. The siblings, Lord Jagannath, Balbhadra and Goddess Subhadra, boarded the chariots at Singadwar, facing towards the Gundicha temple. The chariots of the Lords Jagannath and Balbhadra and Goddess Subhadra will be pulled only by selective servitors and police officials. Orissa government has appealed to citizens to refrain from stepping out of their homes when the chariots roll out on the Grand Road in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. The government has imposed curfew-like shutdown across the district from 9 p.m. of Monday till 2 p.m. on Wednesday. President Ramnath Kovind, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi greeted the nation on the occasion of Rath Yatra and hope the occasion brings good health, happiness and prosperity to the lives of people. And Lord Jagannath's Rath Yatra also began at Jagannath Temple in Ahmedabad. With restrictions in late-night order, the Gujarat High Court, it allowed the annual Rath Yatra as proposed by the state government and temple authorities. Limited devotees are allowed to pull the chariot. As per the High Court's order, there will be a total Janta curfew across the city during the Rath Yatra. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi also tweeted and shared his greetings. He greeted the people on the occasion of the Rath Yatra. In a message, Prime Minister said, "On the sacred occasion of Lord Jagannath Rath Yatra, my warm wishes to all of you. I wish that this Yatra is filled with devotion and respect, may bring happiness, prosperity, luck and good health to all the countrymen." And with that, we conclude this edition of Newsnight. Namaskar.